So I'd like to introduce George McFaul. He's going to talk about In Dreams Awake, the practice of Yoga Nidrā. And George has a sense of humor and provided me with a humorous bio. George started breathing at an early age and has had the good fortune to continue almost daily, almost daily ever since. He's happy to be in the moment, teaching or practicing the pleasurable art of noticing life in all these bodies. He's been a full-time professional teacher since 1995. He first registered with Yoga Alliance with a 500-hour ERYT in 2007, and he's also fully certified in iRest Yoga Nidrā. He went to school and got a religious studies degree with a focus on Eastern religion. And he also got a graduate diploma in mental health and addictions and has worked in that area. In spite of this, he's resisted taking responsibility for any particular school of belief or thought. He has had the immense pleasure of learning from and teaching with Donna Farhi, and he's been largely influenced by Dr. Richard Miller. Some of you may recognize that name. And Dr. Miller has contemporary evolution of Yoga Nidrā that he teaches and trains people to teach. Increasingly, George's focus has evolved to teaching yoga practices that allow anyone to experience ease in body, mind, and spirit. The physical practices support gentle, simple, and immediately gratifying. The meditative practices are effective, guided explorations that invite individuals to welcome their unique experiences of breath, sensation, thought, and joy. And then I also wanted to add my personal testimonial. I have been a student of George's off and on for many years, and always enjoyed his classes. I always thought he was kind of like a yoga artist when he presented yoga teachings. And also I heard testimonials when I was doing some meditation teaching at Yoga MCC. We were part of the same larger program, although we taught on different weekends on different topics, and the students were expressing their fondness of George and that he was somebody they felt very comfortable with, and they felt he was lighthearted. They really enjoyed that. I do remember from the days I first knew George that he also had some skills in clowning, and I wanted to ask him in front of everyone, does he still do that? Because you might have grandchildren or children and they'd be interested, but he can let us know. Yeah. I also want to bring up that we do have a sharing section on the website, and there you can put in questions. If you think of something when you get home that you didn't get a chance to ask here, you can put in questions there and we'll respond to them. And as a last remark would be to remind, if you haven't already done it, which I haven't, is to turn off your cell phone. And otherwise, I'll hand it over to George.
Power off. Power off, exactly. How significant that is to let go of the external virtual reality and recognize we have this vast, immense, incredible reality that we're all part of. What a lovely bio. Thank you, Leslie. I haven't heard that bio for quite a while. Well written, I must say. And the clowning piece. Well, I don't clown professionally anymore. Although I do feel that the lightheartedness that you mentioned, and the joy and the expression and the art of that practice still comes through in my teaching, very much so. I love to spontaneously allow laughter to emerge and joy and bliss to be present. Yeah. Why not? So thanks, everybody. Welcome to this practice tonight. Thanks for coming on this cold January, although I must say exquisitely dark. I love the dark. I've come to really appreciate the long nights. I love the spring and I love the summer too, but there's something very special about this time of year where we get to not just we get to embrace the dark. We let the darkness embrace us, and it's so much a part of us, of our nature, it's a necessary part of the ebb and flow of energy for us. So this nice dark long night, here we are. I'll explore a little bit of that in the practice tonight. Why that, how that is qualitatively valuable to acknowledge and welcome the dark. And appropriate because, first of all, has anybody, I know some of you have definitely Yoga Nidra experience. Anybody else has experienced Yoga Nidra? Just a show of hands. Yoga Nidra, yeah. Okay, good, welcome. And how many of you have a meditation practice? Or you, even if you don't call it a practice, how many of you have done some meditation? And yeah, okay. And so there are some, is there anybody here who's never meditated before?
Tried, but not.
Tried, but.
It's never really fallen into it yet.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here to learn.
Good, yeah, well, welcome.
Thank you.
I think that the most common experience that I have of people when I ask this question, I tried to meditate, but I couldn't do it because I couldn't shut my mind off, right? This is a very common expression. And I say, well, you're in the right place because we don't try to shut the mind off here. In fact, I believe that that's not possible. And why would we want to do it anyway? The mind is incredibly valuable. What we do in this practice, you may have heard the practice identified as yogic sleep, or the sleep of meditation. What we do is allow the mind to become quiet by recognizing that that's not who we are. We can't shut it down, but we can get some distance from it, not separation. There's no such thing in this Advaita practice, which means no two things. But we can let it quiet, let it sleep. And that's why darkness is so valuable. Hopefully you'll be able to get some sleep tonight, a little bit of a nap. So the practice that I'll do with you tonight, I'll just quickly sort of sketch it out, what the elements of it are. The prologue of the practice, the beginning of the practice, has three components to it. We call it the sankalpa. Sankalpa in Sanskrit, I've come to define as meaning that which makes a difference. And it is the intention or the heartfelt desire, that which we long for. We acknowledge it and let it be present. After we've settled in a little bit to our nest, I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. And then we explore what we call the inner resource, the quality of being safe. I will ask you in the practice to remember or imagine a place that in your lifetime has offered you a bit of a refuge or a sanctuary. It'll be special and unique to you. It might be a place that you grew up in your home, if you're lucky, if you're one of the lucky ones who had that growing up. It might be a place that you've learned to go to as an adult or as a maturing individual. Maybe it's a place of nature. It might not be a place from your memory at all. It might be a place that you love to go to in fantasy, in imagination, a place from your dreams, perhaps. But we invite a reference to this place, to the feelings of safety and groundedness, because the default in this practice, we suggest, is that you are and always have been a connected eternal presence, that the universe and you are not separate. The universe is providing for you just as it does every moment. It provides breath to you. It's providing nourishment, and in recognizing that we are together, there is inherent protection there. We don't need to protect ourselves from the other because there is no other in this practice. There's only you. Welcome. And I'll talk a little bit in the practice about how this weaves together. And that provides the prologue for the practice. Then we go through the Yoga Nidrā journey, is specifically a journey of what we call the koshas, or the layers of being, the 5 layers. And they're usually presented in a particular order, but they are not hierarchical. They're all woven together and interconnected. Tonight, I will provide for you a traditional practice that has a little bit of each of these 5 layers. But essentially, in each of these layers of being, we're doing the same thing. We're learning that we are presence, we are awareness. And we're learning to be present as awareness that doesn't try with an agenda to achieve anything. It simply practices being present, being awareness. So the first layer is the layer of the body, the Annamaya kosha, as it's called in Sanskrit, which means the kosha or layer of food, of nourishment. And some of you may be familiar with doing what's called rotation of consciousness through the body. Sometimes it's called progressive relaxation. But in this practice, we're not even trying to relax intentionally. There is no agenda. We're simply being present. We had a brief discussion earlier about insomnia and not being able to sleep at night. And this is the practice that I use for this purpose, and it works so well. Simply to become aware of locations in the body. And there's a particular sequence of locations that we tend to use traditionally. But there's no wrong or right sequence. This sequence is valuable because it touches all the sensory rich places in the brain and in the nervous system. I'm pointing to the mouth and the nostrils and the ears and the eyes. And it goes through locations in the body that are rich in sensory neurons, and just doesn't even ask those parts of the body to relax. It simply pays attention. And as we pay attention, the body gets to downregulate, the nervous system gets to downregulate. Oh, you're not asking me to do anything. You're just being aware of me. Finally, you're just letting me be. And as we allow the body to be in all of these locations, and we move through the whole body in a particular sequence, the nervous system and the body does in fact downregulate and become very relaxed. But not because we're telling it to or asking it to or requesting anything of it, because we're letting it be. So that's the first layer. We go through the body. The second layer, or kosha, is that of the breath or energy. And we approach the breath in the same way. We become aware of it, we feel it, we sense it, we welcome it just as it is. We welcome it. And as we do this, we understand, it's not about understanding intellectually. We come to experience that the breath is a force of its own. The breath is a powerful force, and there's nothing we need to do in order to breathe. I'll talk a little bit about that as we go into the practice and we come into the breath. But for some people, it's quite radical to experience that, oh, wait a minute, I don't have to take a breath. The experience of the breath being a natural phenomena of offering life to you, and all you need to do is welcome it, go along with it. For some people, it's quite radical. And that's the practice of the breath. There are other ways that we explore the breath, some breath counting maybe, or some nadi shodhana, experiencing the breath on either side of the body and then both sides. But some of you might be familiar with pranayama as a practice, and that's not what this is. We're not trying to control the breath or direct it in any way, or even use it for any purpose, but to experience the breath itself. The third layer is the layer of emotions, the layer of feelings and emotions. But we do the same thing with emotions and feelings as we did with the breath and with the body. We become aware of them, we notice them, we feel them, and we welcome them, and we let them be. We'll start with very basic feelings like the feeling of heaviness or tiredness or emptiness. It doesn't matter what the feeling is. It's about being present and welcoming it, letting it be, noticing it. And then we do something in this kosha which we start to work with opposites, the power and value of opposites. So we'll explore the feeling of heaviness, for example, what that feels like, where it is. We welcome it, we notice it. And then we ask to experience what's the opposite for you of that feeling. I'll use the word lightness, but for you it might be openness or spaciousness. You can't do it wrong. Something I'll say often throughout the practice. But you'll become aware of that feeling, the opposite feeling. Where is that in the body? Just noticing it, welcoming it, letting it be. And then we'll do kind of a pendulum swing back and forth between these two opposites as you're experiencing them. Okay? And that's already enough to liberate. I'll just put it this way. We tend to be caught in one half of a dichotomy or the other in terms of how we value the world, how we see the world and experience it. That which is familiar, that which we know, that which we have experienced already, as opposed to that which we think of as negative, that which we want to push away, we don't want to experience, or we're afraid of. Yeah? We tend to lock ourselves down into one or the other. And this is partly because that's the nature of the mind. The mind is, it thrives on this notion that things are separate, and if I just focus on this, I'll be good, I'll be okay. The other part, maybe I will experience it less. But this practice suggests that that is just like a fear of the darkness, or a resistance of the darkness, or a wishing that the darkness would not come so much, that it would pass sooner. We miss a big part of our experience, a part of our experience that is completely natural and holistic. So, as we're working with these opposites back and forth, it's already liberating just to let ourselves experience both, not to be stuck in one or the other. But then we ask a really important question. What if you let yourself experience both, in this case, heaviness and lightness at the same time? This is something the mind cannot do. The mind will have a deference and a default towards one or the other all the time. So right away, we're going outside the mind, we're going beyond the mind. As we allow ourselves to feel both, there's a kind of a switch that gets turned on. There's a kind of movement from a single obsession with one side to holism, to experiencing both sides at the same time. That's a movement of expansiveness, a recognition that, oh, I'm more than just this. I'm experiencing something other, something bigger, something more. And this is a valuable moment of transition. So in the kosha, the third layer of emotions, feelings and emotions, we'll explore that quality of opposition. And then the fourth layer is the layer of intellect, of thought, idea, belief, and very importantly, the level of image, of imago, of symbol, and seeing pictures. And we'll do something very similar. We'll talk about, I'll just describe it this way. I believe that thoughts are like I'm going to say the foot soldiers of the mind. There's countless of them, like the pawns. There's millions and millions of thoughts. But they kind of cohere into groups that are ideas. Thoughts become ideas. And then ideas become grouped into, when they solidify, they become beliefs. Thoughts, ideas, beliefs. And beliefs become ideology. They become things that we fight wars over, we go to task about because we believe them. This practice is not asking you to disbelieve what you believe or confront or challenge or let go of what you believe. But it is suggesting that beliefs are like a kind of set of clothes that we wear, and we feel that that's who we are in the moment. And think of the clothes you wore when you were 17 compared to the clothes you wear now. You probably don't wear the same clothes, or at least there's evolution has taken place, change has taken place. So we simply ask in this practice to experience that belief, any belief. We'll talk about core beliefs as being really valuable in this respect. What does it feel like to own that belief? The belief, I'll mention this one because it's a classic one, the belief that we are time bound, that we're going to run out of time. The experience of life as being, I just don't have enough time, or other people don't respect my time. The belief that time is something that like the sand through an hourglass is going to run out. What it feels like to live in that time-bound world, and we all know what this is, and you'll come up with your own example. And then we say, well, what if, just let yourself experience the possibility that, in fact, there's a part of you that is eternal, that isn't bound by time, that has no limitation in terms of time. What would that feel like? And I'm not asking you to believe it or to live your life entirely as if that's true, although you might find that really valuable. But just the possibility of feeling freed up from that binding of time. What was that? What would that feel like? And then to go back and forth again, we've got an opposite, so we could start to explore both. And that already is liberating. Just to be feeling, okay, this is what it is to be bound up in time. Oh, this is what it is to feel like time isn't such a boundary to me. And then to go back and forth, and maybe, if it's possible, to let yourself feel both at the same time, because both are true. We live in a time-bound agreement about how important time is. And there's a part of you that is simply eternal, has always been here and always will be. These are both true. So what if you allow both to be considered? And that's just one example. It's a pretty important one, but one example of a belief that we have about ourselves and about the world, and to explore letting it go into its opposite. And so we do that, and there's a variety of ways to work with this kosha, working with ideas or thoughts or beliefs in this way, and also with images. And that's a slightly different practice, but we'll see if we get around to that tonight. And then the fifth layer, the fifth kosha, the final kosha, is the kosha of bliss, the kosha of joy. In the traditional Yoga Nidra practice, this kosha kind of just emerges once all the others have been, I'm going to say, resolved. Once we've come to let everything else just be as it is, we recognize that, oh, there's absolutely nothing wrong in this moment. It's okay just to experience the pleasure of being at ease and blissful. And that maybe that is actually available to us every single moment, if we allow. If we let ourselves be present to this quality of pleasure and bliss. So that's the Yoga Nidra journey, those 5 koshas or layers. I like to think of them as these are the ways in which the universe comes to live itself through you. It comes through sensations in the body. It comes through the breath. It comes through emotions and feelings. It comes through thoughts and ideas and beliefs. And if we're lucky and we let it, it comes through pleasure, joy. But that we are often stuck in the mind and the ego and the will, so that we don't have a chance to experience the fullness of all of those things, of the universe trying to live itself through us. We see ourselves as separate and having a burden of separateness. We can't allow that fullness to be experienced. So in Yoga Nidra, we simply move through this journey, getting little peek views, sneak views of what it is like to live in a connected way. And then it just sticks after a while as we practice more and more. And at the end of that journey, at the end of the practice of the coaches, we go back to ask the first question again. What it is that you most deeply desire, the sankalpa. What are you here for? What is your heart most deeply desire? And it might have changed since the beginning. It will have changed likely in some way. It might appear the same, or it might not. There might be no answer to that question for you at the moment, but that's okay, because you are the listener and you are committed to listening, and that's what's important. So, in a nutshell, that's the practice. That's what we're going to experience tonight. We go till 7. We go till 8:30, right? It's 7. Okay, good. So I just want to make sure I'm on time here.
So you have some questions between 8 and 8:10.
Yeah,
To 8:30.
Yes, at the end of the practice, we'll make sure that we leave time for questions. So, are there any questions so far? There's a lot of information just sort of dumped on you, so I don't expect you to have a deep understanding of it. But anything sort of pique your interest in all of that? And there needn't be anything. It's okay if there isn't, but I just want to take the opportunity if there is something that's.
I found that a really good basic explanation or reminder for people, and the part about reaching a place possibly of some joy. That struck me.
Yeah, it does strike us, doesn't it? And why not? But there's a key to this. And as you asked your question, and it's not about you at all, but it's about the nature of the way we structure how we see the world. You said reaching a place of joy or bliss. There's no place to reach. There's no other place to go. It's already here, and it always has been. It's already and always has been a part of you. Yeah, this is a very significant mention, because we are so bound up in this notion that I have to do it. I have to do it right.
Yeah.
I have to get it. I have to go somewhere. There's nowhere to go. Let go of going somewhere and you'll be where you are. That sounds kind of facile maybe, but it's the truth. So yeah, bliss is already here. It's not even waiting for you. It's already here. But thank you for recognizing that that's a quality that you recognize as, yeah, bliss. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
I do. It's not intended as a challenge, it's just a curiosity. So you describe these 5 levels, such as being aware of sensory but not demanding anything. It is what it is. It's at my fingertips. Same with thoughts. You also describe going from the area in which we're more apt to be in and to explore that other area, that other half of the world that might not be a part of my normal life, let's say, conceptually. And you talk even about a pendulum, kind of swing back and back. I'm a little skeptical, confused, uncertain how at the end of this it's necessarily joy. Is that to be taken as a leap of faith, or is there an explanation physiologically? Why would it result in joy, which sort of human construct analytical kind by a physical sense, I'll say, is an emotion in my brain, is a sensory feeling. You talked about thoughts, ideas, beliefs. Why might it not be blank at the end?
It might be.
Or fear, or anything else. Can you take me to the why joy, or is it more open-ended than that?
Well, it is open-ended, but joy, because that's what is. Life is inherently an experience of joyousness, of pleasure, of bliss. And you don't have to believe that or take my word for it, but that is the experience that is the result. Not as a result in the sense of an equation that takes us somewhere, but once all these other things have been allowed to go to sleep, and this is why Nidrā means sleep, all these other identities that we have that keep us bound, and we need these identities, they're valuable, but they're not the whole story. The whole story includes a participation in a universe that is benevolent and generous and protective and nourishing and joyful. So let's see how the practice goes, and let's come back to the question. The answer was actually in the comment that I made to Mara about joy is already here. Yeah, it's here. It's think of it. One of the images that's often used is there are veils, and maybe you've had an image like this before. There are veils that cover over our true nature as benevolent, joyous experience, and these veils they fall away as we disidentify with them. And it's not that we create joy or cause it; it's always there. We're suddenly able to revel in it, to see it. As Patanjali says in the Yoga Sutras, the seer abides in the self. That's the true nature of existence, and that's glorious. Thank you. All right. Any other questions before we delve in? So it's called Yoga Nidrā. The Nidrā means sleep. It is most often done in a lying down position, a position of extreme comfort. So I'm going to invite you. I know that some of you do have your props with you to set that up. It can be done in any position. You're certainly totally welcome to do it sitting in your chair. You're welcome to do it standing up or sitting against the wall. You're welcome to do it in any position. But the first part of the practice is about settling in. It's about getting as comfortable as you can be. So most people find the utmost comfort in lying down and as if they're about to have a nap. So if we could just take a few minutes to set up that, those of you who wish to set that up, maybe let's do that in front here, and we'll move those chairs aside so you've got room. I'm going to move over to this location here because, well, as I do the practice, I might be making some sounds with these items over here. You're welcome to.
So if anybody needs a yoga mat, I have one here. You can use it.
Shall we bring this down here? Sure.
You can set it up however you think is best.
For visual?
Yeah, you can whatever you think is best.
Will do. Do we have any control over these lights?
Yes.
Oh, outstanding. If we can dim them, that would be great. All right, we can hear the sounds. We can hear the sounds of people settling in. As you settle, allow yourself to open your awareness to the sounds in the room, the sensation in the room of being with others. As if when you hear someone else settling or scraping their chair, that's a part of you. Just as your breathing is happening. And by the way, I'll just say this, that snoring happens. It comes and it goes. If it should be the case that someone is erupting profoundly into a loud, groundbreaking snore, you'll see that we do things that vary up things. I might move around, I might get up and walk around, or I might make some sound. And usually that's enough to just change and it goes away. But don't worry about if it happens to you or to someone else. It comes and goes. So allow yourself to settle into the ground beneath you. If you're sitting, feel yourself settling into the chair. Maybe it might feel comfortable to move a little bit, shift your spine side to side. Allowing yourself to settle. And allow yourself to open to the senses. As you settle, maybe the sense of taste, the sense of smell, the sense of hearing, the sense of seeing, just open to the senses, not what they are tasting or smelling or hearing, but to the senses themselves. The sense of touch. And notice where it might be in your awareness that you're opening from. A sense of spaciousness, a central location, and the center is everywhere, by the way. Wherever you feel it in the body or in your mind, the center, just feel yourself opening from the center to the senses. And that center will change, but you'll always be opening from there. Allow yourself to open in all directions. Open to the ground beneath you, the space above you. Open to the sound of the furnace as it's just kicked in. Open to memory, imagination. Maybe there are senses that we don't have names for because we haven't really recognized them. I believe that's true, but there's one sense in particular that we don't normally acknowledge. And I'm going to ask you to open in particular to the sense of what it is to be you. The sense that vibrates or vacillates when you know that things are well for you, or that you are anxious, or that you are anticipating. The sense of being you, what is that? And there's no right or wrong answer, but I ask you to open even towards that sense, the sense of you-ness. And as you allow this settling, as you become more and more part of the ground, part of the breath, ask yourself, what is it that you're here for? Welcoming yourself just as you are, ask yourself, what is it that you would most welcome to be here in the world for you or with you? What would you most desire to offer to the world? As you ask this question, maybe the sensation of asking it from a sense of longing asking it of your heart. The answer to this question might be something fairly specific and particular. Maybe you wish to be able to sleep more easily. Maybe you wish to have a little bit more courage in your life, or confidence, or patience. Maybe you would like to have that as a result of tonight's practice. You cannot do this practice wrong. I'll say this again and again. You cannot do it wrong. Ask the question, what is it that you want? And let the answer come, however it comes. Maybe as a word or a phrase or a feeling, a memory. However it comes, welcome it. And notice that even though you ask, what is it you desire? What is it you long for? As if you don't have it. When you have the answer, you also have it. It's here. This isn't a trick. The truth is, this quality, this sankalpa that makes a difference, this heartfelt desire, has always been resonant for you and with you somehow. You're just letting it be acknowledged. And if, as you ask this question, there is no clear answer, that's okay too. What's most important is that you are present as the awareness, the listener, asking the question. From time to time, I'll make sound, chimes and the bell, and the shruti box, maybe the rain stick. These sounds are made not to wake you up or to bring you back from somewhere, but just to provide some resonance, some depth, some flourish. You won't hear everything that is said in this practice, and that's okay. You will hear, though, as you stay present and awake in your awareness, that what you need to hear. The body might go to sleep. The mind, if you're really lucky, will become quieter. But you, as awareness, are ever present, always have been and always will be aware. There's much made these days about what I'll call the survival brain. We're starting to understand how the nervous system works. Its strategies for survival are based on fight and flight and freeze, to name a few. This is valuable, and it's effective, and it's successful. You have survived. We have survived as a species. Here we are. But it's also based on the notion we need to be protective. We need to be vigilant. We need to be on guard. It's based on the notion that there is a separateness between you and other. This is valuable, and it's true in a sense. But at the very least, it is not the whole story. The nervous system that you're experiencing in your body, and the nervous system of the universe are not separate. Yoga means connection. The nervous system is a interwoven fascial connection, a matrix of fascia, connective tissue. So allow yourself to also experience connectedness. Call it non-separateness, conjugation, being a part of rather than apart from. Welcome home. But because our nervous system is defaulted and we have cognitively recognized this notion of fight, flight, and freeze, and we're constantly on alert, we don't get a chance to experience this sense of connectedness. So we practice. Part of this practice includes, as I mentioned earlier, recognizing, remembering, imagining some place that holds you, maybe a place in your memory that has held you so fully and easily and offered comfort to you, a place of safety. So see yourself there, remember it. Maybe it's a place that you've learned to go to, a beach, a meadow, a mountain, someplace in the elements. Maybe it's a place from fantasy or story or myth or literature or dream. Just let yourself be seen and felt there, whether it's from memory or imagination. And notice, as you feel yourself in this place of safety and connection, what it is, what's one thing that sort of glints for you? Maybe it's the quality of light shining on the waves or the moonlight. Maybe it's the smell of the leaves in the fall. Maybe it's the sound of a lot of people murmuring. Maybe you feel at home and safe amongst a lot of people. You cannot do this wrong, but whatever it is, as you call it into your awareness, you have easier access to it. This truth, this response of connection, rather than the response of separateness. We call this the inner sanctuary. We'll come back to it again and again in your lifetime, in this practice, as we are still and observant and aware. Some of the things that show up are precisely the things that we have hidden, that maybe we're ashamed of, or that we no longer dare to acknowledge. And in doing so, we are excluding those parts of ourselves that are needed to be a complete wholeness. So it's valuable sometimes when these things show up, these scary things. It's valuable to have a refuge to offer them, or a place to take refuge yourself until you are ready to welcome them. We're going to go on a journey now through the body, a journey of movement of awareness. There's no movement required on your part. If you need to move, by all means, let yourself move. Although if you observe that need to move, generally it passes. But if it doesn't, and you need to move, let there be movement, and then settle back to stillness. Become aware of the mouth. Let attention settle in and around the tongue, the lips, the roof of the mouth, the floor of the mouth, the inner walls of the cheeks. The whole spacious, resonant cavity of the mouth. Sense it as pure, radiant sensation. The mind might give you a picture or a map of location. Use that map to let yourself be present to the sensation, the pure sensation of the mouth. And then moving out to the ears, sensing the right ear and the left ear. And then sensing down deeply into the ear canals, the right and left, left and right. And then sensing both ears at the same time, as if You are listening to the listeners, sensing the listeners listening to each other. And then welcome to sensation of the nostrils. Feeling the movement of breath, perhaps, but sensing the nostrils as not quite the same. One side might feel larger or might be blocked slightly or completely. The other side might feel cooler, smaller. But welcome sensation from both sides. Welcome both nostrils simultaneously. And the same with the eyes. You know that your eyes are not identical. Even if you have 20/20 vision, there's a slight difference between them. Imagine that one eye is one color and the other is another, as you've seen in some animals. Each eye sees a different universe. See them both, welcome them both. A sense of holism, of vision. And yet there's nothing that your eyes need to look out towards. See yourself seeing vision itself. Welcome home. Become aware of the third eye, the center of the forehead, and sensing back into the brain. Feeling the whole brain and the whole skull, all the organs of sensation, the mouth and the ears and the nostrils and the eyes. Sensing down into the throat. Just being present to sensation as it is. You cannot do it wrong because you're not doing. You're being present. From the throat, sensing out to the shoulders, the elbows, and the wrists, the palms of the hands. You might have a preference for one side or the other. That's okay. Notice that. And let yourself be also aware of the other. Both hands. Become aware of the thumb tips, the tips of the index fingers, the tips of the middle fingers, the tips of the ring fingers, the baby fingers. Pure radiant sensation, maybe like a constellation of stars or candles. And then from the tips of the fingers back up, the palms of the hands, the wrists, the elbows, the shoulders, both arms and both hands and all the fingers. Pure radiant sensation. Moving into the heart center, awareness of the torso and the lungs, the shoulder blades behind and the breasts in front, the sternum. Pure radiant sensation, just letting sensation be as it is, aware of, aware as. Sensing down into the belly. We're pretty hard on the belly. We hold it in certain positions. We want it to have a certain look. Right now, just let the belly be as it is. Welcome pure radiant sensation in the belly. Place of intuition, a place of a deep memory of genetic history from the navel, where you come from, where the body comes from. Welcome sensation just as it is down in the pelvis. If you're lying down, the tailbone and the sacrum, the back of the pelvis. If you're sitting, the sitting bones, the pelvic floor. And be aware of the whole pelvic bowl. Every offering, every suggestion I make in this practice is an invitation. There's no need to get it right or even do as is being asked. You might prefer not to spend time in certain locations in the body. That's okay. But wherever you are, just let sensation be as it is. And if possible now, in the pelvis, the pelvic bowl, the whole of the pelvis. And then sensing down from the pelvis into the thighs, into the knees, into the ankles and the calves, the heels, the soles of the feet, the tops of the feet, and all of the toes, the big toes, the second and middle toes, the fourth toes, the baby toes. All of the toes is maybe a constellation of stars again, or tingling. Just notice what's there. And from the very tips of the toes and the soles of the feet, both feet and both legs, all the way back up into the hips and pelvis and belly and heart, lungs and shoulders and arms and hands and fingers and throat, the brain, the center of the forehead, the eyes and the nostrils, the ears and the mouth, the whole body as pure radiant sensation. Sensations arising spontaneously, awareness sensing and welcoming them. You know the body is solid. You've experienced it all your life as a solid presence, which it is. And it is pure radiant sensation. Energy, if you will. But you don't even need to know what that is. Just sense the radiance of sensation that is the body. And become aware of the sensation of breathing, the sensation of the movement of prana, we call it in Sanskrit, the language of yoga, the forward movement of life. There's no right or wrong way to breathe that is being suggested here. Just as you opened to locations in the body and let yourself be there, just as sensation was arising, open to the breath wherever and however you feel it. Maybe it's in the nostrils and the throat and the belly and the diaphragm and the lungs. The truth is, the breath is moving and happening everywhere in the body. Roughly 50 trillion cells in your body alone are breathing. So the sensation of the whole body permeable to breath, as if breath is passing through you like a gentle breeze through a curtain in an open window. Notice that the exhalation and the inhalation happen without any intervention from you. There's nothing you need to do. Sometimes the breath will be quick, sometimes it'll be slow, sometimes fuller than at other times. Welcome the breath exactly as it is, as you are sensing it in this moment. And notice any feelings that are present in the body. I mentioned earlier the feeling of timelessness, of freedom, liberation. And its opposite, the feeling of being late and being out of time. The feeling of believing that your body will die, that you will die. You know that's true, that the body will die. Feel that true. And then entertain something that might be novel or unusual, the opposite feeling that there's a part of you that is eternal. You've always been here, as far as you know. You've always been here. Why do you believe that you won't be. And just entertain the possibility, or the feeling at least, of what it is to have an eternal aspect of yourself. You've always been here. And just feel these two opposites, the feeling that we're all familiar with of being stuck in time, believing that time will end, and its opposite, that you've always been here. And that is also true. And maybe even allowing yourself to feel both of these at the same time. Both are true. Things end, and things go on forever. The body ends, and you as awareness have always been and will always be present. Welcome home. And all of these beliefs and feelings and ideas and sensations and movements of breath, these are all rich experiences of being alive. But none of them is who you are, or at least you are always awareness, aware of these phenomena, aware of the body, aware of the breath, not separate from them, and yet awareness, aware of feelings and emotions as they come and go, aware of beliefs and ideas that have changed and do change over time, but you as awareness are always and have always been present. And so sense yourself present as awareness, and all of these other things that are present, every time they show up, they're not who you are. They're here for you, to enrich you, to imbue you, to support, offer the universe coming to live itself through you as awareness. And how, as all of these things no longer are only a limitation or a definition of you, there's a kind of liberation, a freedom, a joy, a bliss of being, unbounded, limitless, the ability to be in all places, or all places to be here in this moment with you. What does that feel like? The mind and the ego will not believe this. They'll want to pull you back from that magnificence because it's uncontrollable. It's not definable. And that's okay, that's their job. But that's not all you are. Welcome home to the experience of connectedness, conjugation, if you will, with everything, including the experience of how perfect and blissful that can be in every single moment. Everything is transporting to you this value, it's bringing to you this possibility of connection. Yes, even of joy. You might experience that as a simple comfort, a release, a letting go, a smile in the organs, a simple moment of contentment or quietness. However you experience it now. And the possibility that it will never end. This moment. And then from this place, or as this place, or with this place of openness and a kind of joy and permission for everything to be just as it is, return again to the original question. What is it that you most desire? What is it that you would most welcome to be with you in this world? To be here for you in this world? Peace? Healing? Those are just examples. They may resonate with you, but most importantly, what is it that speaks most fully, most longingly to you? And as you feel this sense of longing, recognize that within it is the capacity to belong, to connect with and be a part of. This which we call the sankalpa, that which makes a difference. Not only is it here for you, it's a richness that offers you what you've always longed for and wanted because it's always been here. But it, in fact, is the greatest thing you have to offer. It's what the universe needs from you. How perfect is that? That which you most desire, you always have, and that is what the world needs from you, to be complete. The mind will have serious doubts about this, but just let it be felt. Welcome home to a place you've never left, or at least to a place that has never left you. As you hear the sound receding, let yourself open to the silence and the stillness that's always with you. As we've come to the completion of our journey of Yoga Nidrā, our practice, this place you've never left and you've always been, allow yourself to, as it were, come back into the body as if you've been somewhere else. I'm going to suggest that you haven't. You've been very fully present, but it might feel like you're coming back from somewhere. As you start to stretch and yawn, and maybe if it's too bright when you open your eyes, just cover your eyes with your hands briefly. And then open your eyes to that darkness, that quietness. Opening yourself to the nice long winter nights we have of dreaminess and sleep. Welcome home. This completes our practice of Yoga Nidrā for tonight. We're going to take a few moments just to come back to movement, and you're welcome to stay on the floor, or if you prefer to get onto a chair, then you're welcome to do that. I'm going to stay where I am, but you're welcome to move about if you want. Namaste means spirit greets and recognizes itself in each of us. Namaste. So thank you very much for your practice. I know that there's been a request for a question and answer, some time for questions and maybe answers, we'll see. But I also know that this practice tends to take us, it opens up a pre-verbal place that you don't have to speak, you don't have to have a question. Or you may think you don't have a question and one will occur to you, but it's okay to ask it or not ask it, it's all right. Comments are also welcome, they tend to be also questions in some way or other.
So George, you speak of awareness as our resting point, where we're sort of going back to what already exists. I wondered if you could explain a little bit more about what you mean by awareness. Only in the sense that normally when we're aware of things, it's just not the knowing of it, but we instantly meaning make, and we instantly self whatever we're aware of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
did you say we instantly self it?
We instantly self.
Nice, a verb,
and
the verb of selfing.
And meaning making. So the first question is, what exactly do you mean by awareness from this perspective?
If I can take exactly that moment that you just expressed, that moment of, I call it a moment of appropriation. It's what the ego and the will and the mind does with everything. And this is its nature. It has to do this. It tries to appropriate it. It selfs it, as you say. It judges it. It wants to push it away because it judges it as wrong. It tries to get advantage with whatever it is that's presenting itself, take advantage for a future. It compares it to a past and reminds us how big of a failure we are. It does all kinds of things with that, right? But what if we don't do that? And that's what this practice is about. It's about saying, okay, so there's sensation. Normally I would say, oh, that's pain. It's because my knee is damaged. It's because I haven't been to the doctor. I haven't taken care of it. We go down this whole path. But instead, oh, that's sensation. Okay, what does it feel like if I just let myself be with it? What we're doing, my answer, what is awareness? It's that which is present in that mode, even that's not the right word, but it's when there is no mode present, and yet we're still there. That's awareness. It can't be defined, and I'm not trying to avoid the question, but any definition that we come up with takes us into the articulation of the mind, takes us into some purposeful direction. As you said, we make meaning of it. But what if it is its own meaning, and we allow ourselves to just be present and satisfied with that? The name for the fourth chakra, anahata, the heart chakra, means the unstruck sound. And that's the quality, and that's where everything goes through, actually, is through the heart chakra. But that quality of just before the sound is struck, once it's struck, we go into the vibration. But that moment before it's struck, anahata, that's the moment of universal awareness. It's that space in between everything. And yet it's included in everything. So when we start to talk about it, language breaks down. We can't describe it fully. Everything sounds a little bit yoga, so yoga. I actually heard this yesterday morning. One of the hosts in CBC was talking about. She's the one who does the weather conditions and the road conditions. And somebody had called in and said, it's really important to be present as you're driving today because the conditions are so difficult. And for some reason, she chose to take some kind of, I don't know, she chose to pick up on this and say, oh, that's so yoga. Why don't you just say being alert instead of being present, right? And so I actually emailed her and I said, well, I think that you were very alert in your comments today, but I don't think you were very present. So this quality of presence is sometimes the word we use. We sometimes use the word consciousness or spirit. The experience of these as us, that's awareness. It's not differentiated. We come at it from letting go of the sense of separation. We come at it by letting go of the sense of me and you separate. But in the midst of that, there is no definition of it. There is no separation. It's the experience of being connected to everything, which we are, always have been. There's only one of us here, which is a curious comment, but that's the nature.
That's a very yoga comment.
It's so yoga. Is it so yoga? It's so yoga. Yeah. So I'm not sure that answers the question, but the practice is that's the essence of it. We are awareness. Welcome home.
I have a question. How would you blend or you combine the practice of yoga nidra with the other yogic practices, or how do you?
Well, I've come to see that the other yogic practices are only really yogic if they're somehow exploring this essence. That yoga means connection. So the asana practice, which I practice every day and I teach regularly and have done so for many years. But those practices, to me, I only understand them as yoga now if there's an exploration of what it is to be present through whatever it is we're connecting, what we're recognizing the connection of. Yoga is not a verb, by the way. We don't actually make connection happen. It's already there. All we do is see it and become aware of it. So whether it's connecting the breath and the body or the mind and the body, whether it's a sense of connecting the limbs together or whatever it is we're connecting, that's what makes it yogic for me. If I could read a poem to help to answer this question. I've got some books here, and you're welcome to have a look at them that talk about Yoga Nidra. So one of the things about yogic practice, and meditation practice perhaps too, is that we get defeated by the fact that we have to make ourselves do something. I mean, how many of you have encountered the impossibility of discipline? Right? If I don't practice every day, it's not really a practice, and I need to do an hour and a half of yoga practice every day or 3 times a week. I need to get up at a certain time and do my practice. Well, I don't know about you, but that notion of discipline has never worked for me. In fact, I think I kind of rebel against it. But I came upon this. This is a book by Tracy Stanley, who has written a book called Radiant Rest. And it is a book about Yoga Nidra, but it's also a book about practice. And so she has here a poem that she's written called The Householder's Flow, or The Householder's Prayer. And this is how I see one of the most important thing I see about this is that there's never a moment where yoga isn't possible. Yeah. Householder's Prayer. The altar is in my heart. The sun and the moon are my gurus. I trust the earth to support me. Each time I close my eyes, I enter the void. My heart is the portal to my sacred cave. I whisper the names of the divine as I prepare my meals. I notice the flow of my beloved's breath as they fall asleep, and I synchronize my breath to the flow of love. I place a blessing in the pause between the breaths. I hold the power to create a new reality with every thought. I honor silence as a blessing. I explore who I am and who I am not in the mirror of relationship. I question my beliefs with curiosity and courage, and I would add kindness. I honor my ancestors. I lay down all self-doubt with compassion and forgiveness. That's a good practice. I remember the light of my soul as I enter the dream state. I recall the beauty of truth as I transition from sleep to waking. I know the vibration of truth. I remember that nothing is mundane. I honor the power of the transition as a portal to transformation. Everything is an offering. My life is a sacred ritual. Wow, eh? Each line, each one of these is a gem of possibility. Taken together, it says to us, to me anyway, that the practice of yoga is not confined to the mat. Although the mat's useful and the mat provides a sangha, provides a way to share, that capacity for connection is always available to us. And that's a powerful poem. And it gives each of us, if any of those lines resonated with you, follow that, because that's your pathway. One of them. Any other questions or comments?
Just a comment, I guess, on my experience tonight. A lot of things that you touched on. It's being here. I just experienced various states in terms of just being alert, awake, listening, and then being in the state of actually did fall asleep. But taking it all in, and that was just me being and present. And I think without trying to explain it, define it, without, that's just sort of the state that didn't, you know, I had my eyes open, I am visually seeing and experiencing a lot. But with the eyes closed, it didn't mean that anything went away, but at the same time, for me, they were present yet not. Because I didn't see, doesn't mean that you weren't there. You're still present, and my eyes were closed. So in the same sense of just lying down and experiencing whatever it is, wherever your thoughts are taking you or not, you were speaking, you were present. I was in and out of that presence in my head. So that's, and yes, the poem in that sense, various lines. And I think part of, I think you had mentioned you tried meditation, and I think sometimes that's sort of the space I was in until I looked at meditation. To me is what it is for me. It's not a definition of somebody else's that I apply. If that's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 hours, whatever that space is. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for articulating that. And what resonates for me very strongly in what you say is the experience that, I'm going to say it this way, that I am enough. This moment, my experience in this moment, just as it is, that is enough. Doesn't have to be something else. Doesn't have to achieve. And that as a practice is so liberating and so powerful. And we're going to say self-asserting, because it's you who's there, you as awareness. Your experiences, your feelings, your emotions, your thoughts, as they're occurring, you know, it's that old, I'm okay, you're okay. That old book that maybe that's a reference that many people won't know, but that allows us to coexist and just to be. And we have so much great capacity that is being hindered by the belief that we have to be something else, that we have to do something more, that we need more, that we did something wrong. We're so caught up in those directions and definitions that we don't just let ourselves be the magnificence that we are. Yeah, so that's what I hear you saying when you say the experience of it just, it's just what it is. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, George. So we have a tradition here of asking the speaker to enunciate 2 to 3 key takeaway points for the who've attended, if you wish.
2 to 3 key takeaway points. Well, bliss. I'll resist, I won't say bliss, bliss, and bliss, but bliss. Enough. Darkness. Darkness.
Also...
I want to say darkness.
Darkness, okay.
Welcome the darkness.
Welcome the darkness. How can people connect with you if they're interested?
Sure. Well, I do have a website, Geo Yoga. You can connect with me that way. You can send out my email address, I assume. I will provide a link to the recording. I did a recording of that practice, and then you have a recording on here that maybe you also have, but I specifically bracketed the beginning and the ending of the Yoga Nidra practice, and I'll send that link to you. I will also send links to other recordings that I have done, both bespoke recordings, excuse me, wild recordings, I call them, just of other classes, and some recordings that I have choreographed, so to speak, that I've done in studio with some other colleagues of mine. So that's a little different. We plan them and we practice and we improvise them in the moment, but they're well-crafted studio productions rather than these sort of spontaneous recordings. Both are valuable. Anyway, I'll send you links to all of those. I'm not currently teaching public classes. I was up until the end of December, and I've let go of those. I'm teaching at the university quite a bit right now. But those classes are for, if you're attached to the university, you can attend those classes. So I will send that link to, or I'll send that information for anybody who is. But I am looking for a place to teach, basically. I've been teaching for many, many years, and I know that I will find a place soon. I just don't know where it is.
Well, thank you very much, George.
You're very welcome. Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you.